Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colonel Gabbard, when Russia was denying Assad's use of chemical weapons, they accused the U.S. of supporting terrorists. This is a line that Putin used frequently during the Syrian civil war as he supported Assad. Syrian officials made similar comments. They did it repeatedly. They did it in public. They did it at the United Nations. In 2016, you gave an interview in which you said, and this is a quote, "The U.S. is providing direct and indirect support to terrorist groups in order to overthrow the Syrian government." And in 2019, on the Democratic presidential debate stage, you said of President Trump, this is a quote, "This current president is continuing to betray us. We were supposed to be going after al-Qaeda, but over years now, not only have we not gone after al-Qaeda, our president is supporting al-Qaeda." So I'm interested to hear, what was your goal in saying these things? And did you consider, before saying them, the motives of Iran and Russia, what their motives might have been before making these claims?
Senator, as someone who enlisted in the military specifically because of al-Qaeda's terrorist attack on 9/11 and committing myself and my life to doing what I could to defeat these terrorists, it was shocking and a betrayal to me and every person who was killed on 9/11, their families and my brothers and sisters in uniform. When, as a member of Congress, I learned about President Obama's dual programs that he had begun really to overthrow the regime of Syria, and being willing to, through the CIA's Timber Sycamore program that has now been made public, of working with and arming and equipping al-Qaeda in an effort to overthrow that regime, starting yet another regime change war in the Middle East. DoD train and equip program, again, begun under President Obama, is widely been known, looked at and studied, that ultimately resulted in over $500 million being used to train who they called moderate rebels, but were actually fighters working with and aligned with al-Qaeda's affiliate on the ground in Syria, all to move forward with their regime change and not acknowledging what was obvious at the time and what has unfortunately borne true, which was that a regime change war in Syria, much like the regime change wars in Iraq, the toppling of Gaddafi and Mubarak, while these are all dictators, would likely result in the rise of Islamist extremists like al-Qaeda taking power.
I never thought ever that would ever be said in congressional testimony, that it is true the Obama administration was arming al-Qaeda in an attempt to overthrow Assad. And now we have the self-appointed president in Syria who used to be on the terrorist watch list. This is nothing new for the United States. We were arming the Taliban during the Cold War, and we actually spent U.S. taxpayer money to radicalize the Islamist world in order to fight the Soviets. This is all true. Before we went into the Iraq War in 2000, Saddam Hussein was saying, "I do not have weapons of mass destruction," and was saying the inspectors could come in and verify this, and the U.S. intelligence agencies would have said, "Hey, that's an Iraqi talking point." Is it true or is it not true? Does he have weapons of mass destruction or does he not have weapons of mass destruction? Well, it turns out he didn't have weapons of mass destruction. So that's what's annoying about this whole thing about, oh, these are Russian talking points. Assad's a bad guy. He killed his own people in the Syrian civil war. I'm not going to feel bad that he got overthrown, but what's going to replace this is my question. Because when we overthrew Saddam Hussein, guess who came in afterwards? ISIS.
For the fall of the Assad regime, but today we have an Islamist extremist who is now in charge of Syria, as I said, who danced on the streets to celebrate the 9/11 attack, who ruled over Idlib with an Islamist extremist governance, and who has already begun to persecute and kill and arrest religious minorities like Christians in Syria.
I understand.
Why that should be acceptable to anyone is beyond me.
It is certainly not in our interest. I appreciate your answer, and thank you. My concern has to do with the tendency to repeat Russian and Syrian, and even in some cases, I think we'll get into in the closed session, Iranian information, and to discount what comes from our intelligence community.
How's that discount what the intelligence communities are saying? That's acknowledging what the intelligence community is trying to tell us. Hey, there are extremist groups who are among the Syrian rebels who are trying to overthrow Assad. Is this okay? What came after the Reagan administration after we started arming these extreme groups who are in the Islamist world? What came was the Mujahideen. And then what came after that? Al-Qaeda, the very same people who attacked us on 9/11, we were supporting in Syria. Anyone else think this is insane? And I could see it from Tulsi Gabbard's point of view. Hey, you told us that we were going out there to get these guys after they killed our own people, and now you're supporting them just because it's the most convenient thing on the geopolitical chessboard, which shows the people in charge don't care about us. They don't care about consistency. And if it's good for the chessboard, we will literally support terrorists who attacked us. That doesn't mean I think Tulsi Gabbard's qualified for this position, but at least it actually comes out. At least they actually said, hey, we might have armed al-Qaeda, but you're parroting Russian talking points that just happen to be true. But what do you have to say for parroting Russian talking points? Are they true or are they not true? I had to make a video on this. I never thought something like this would ever come out on congressional testimony, because if you say that to a regular person, hey, in Syria, we are arming al-Qaeda, they'd be like, that's a conspiracy theory.